So today I'll be introducing Dr. Emily Reiser. She received her bachelor's degree in biology from Emory University and then completed her PhD in bioengineering and biomedical engineering here at Rice. Throughout this time, Emily began to focus on healthcare commercialization, developing experience in different aspects of business development at Nolius Technologies and Venture, and culminating in her current position leading strategy and new ventures at the Texas Medical Center. And so today she will be presenting about the current state of innovation across the TMC. So please welcome her.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and everyone at the GCC team for the invitation, and of course, all of you for being a part of it. For those of you on Zoom, I'm going to be walking around a little bit, so I'm just saying hi, and we'll see you in a bit. Like Kevin mentioned, Emily Reiser, I spent a lot of time here in this building, so glad to be back with all of you. Thanks for spending your Friday afternoon with me. I'm going to be talking about innovation and how it works in the medical center, what the opportunities are to engage across the innovation spectrum, and then also just some of the cool activities that are happening. Some of you may already be familiar with this work and others like going on across the campus, and for some of you it may be new. So we'll do a little bit of engagement to kick us off. So would love to kind of get a show of hands who has thought about startup or industry focused careers before today and seriously considering it. Okay, cool. Who is like, absolutely not, that is not for me, I'm not interested. Anybody else on that end of the spectrum? No, okay, interesting. Okay, a few. So we'll talk about some of the ways that all of you who are interested can engage and some of the myths about it for those of you who think that it's out of reach or not interesting. We can talk about that as well. So before we really jump in, I would love to hear what people's perspectives on innovation are. Like, what does innovation mean to you? Does anyone want to share what you think innovation means to you? It means a lot of things to a lot of people, so yeah. Cool, yeah. Okay, cool. So we were talking about the R&D prowess of the US compared to the rest of the world. Okay, that's one area, definitely research and development. Research and development also means different things to different people. So cool, but lots of folks here doing research across the spectrum. So people are already participating probably in the innovation journey. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts about what innovation is or what it means to you? You're like, this is silly. That's okay. Martha, you want to tell me about what innovation means to you?
Really a finding, or as we're talking about research, something that propels the science into the next stage. So something that's really going to be a game changer. And, you know, in our case, we think of something that's going to be innovative for life-saving technologies.
Cool. Okay, great. Love it. So nice qualification with life-saving. There's lots of innovation that happens in the health system that has nothing to do with saving lives necessarily, but might be having to do with health system supply chains, or it might be really far away from patients' lives savings, but really important for how they experience their care. So booking a doctor's appointment or something like that could happen too. But I think you touched on something that a lot of us really is the reason why we got into this field, which is to do something new that hasn't been done before, and then also to help the greater good for people. And I think that's a big motivating factor for a lot of us to be in this space. Anyone else want to share what innovation means to them? Sure. Yeah.
I think about pushing the decimal place over one spot. So if you can improve magnification of a device,
Okay.
you can do something with fewer parameters, you can speed up inference for a model.
Cool. Okay, I love it. So you're talking about what can we measure? Can we measure speed? Can we measure time? Can we measure outcomes or impact in some kind of way? And that's how we'll know that we've achieved innovation potentially. Cool. All right, that's a good place to start. Certainly when I was sitting in your shoes as a graduate student here at Rice, I wasn't really necessarily thinking about innovation in the startup and product context. I was thinking about how does a drug product get to patients, and not really sure how that all happened. Luckily, between the time I was here and now, there's a lot more resources for those of you who are developing drug products to be able to get resources here across the medical center to help you push forward, to help you better understand regulatory reimbursement, build teams, get funding to drive those projects forward. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what is going on in the Med Center right now that is pushing these innovative pieces forward. All right, so we all know this, but just for additional context, we are in the largest medical complex in the world. There's 10 million patients that are seen here every single year. There's a huge amount of clinical trial activity with an amazing diversity of the population and world-leading experts across the board in all of these different areas. Obviously, oncology, a huge focus, neuro, cardiovascular, also enormous impacts and beyond. So Texas Medical Center 9 years ago started to invest in innovation infrastructure. And that both means physical infrastructure and people infrastructure. And so this is the TMC Innovation Factory that opened in 2015. Here we host startups from around the world who want to both translate something out of one of the institutions here on our campus, or who want to come and partner to sell a product or to run a clinical trial here at the Med Center. So since we opened this in 2015, we've worked with over 450 companies throughout those 9-year periods across digital health, medical device, and oncology therapeutics in particular. We also have a J Labs here on site. So for any company that needs to have their own lab resources after they graduate out of the university infrastructure, they can also find those here as well. And so when we think about all the pieces that we need to build an innovation infrastructure, it's really talent, people that can do this work and that know how to pull things forward. It's the funding it takes to do the projects that may not be able to be funded by grants, but are really important for those next level of investors to be interested in the projects. And then there is some physical infrastructure involved with building lab companies. And so TMC is a neutral third party that looks to collaborate with all the institutions listed here and more. And really what we're seeking to do is build efficiency in our life science community here. And so starting with the really rich talent that's here on the research side and on the clinical care side, combined with talent that knows how to bring drug products to market, that's done it before in big industry and small biotech. We bring those people together in physical space, in labs, specialized labs that they may need, and in community events. And then we also bring together funders. So here in Texas, CPRIT is a huge value add for all of us that participate in cancer prevention and research and startup world. But we also have our own fund at TMC. Portal Innovations is a new funder and lab infrastructure player that's just come to town. We've already made 2 co-investments with them. And Modi Ventures is a new fund that just started up a year ago as well, bringing a ton of value to the community. And so this is kind of the path that we'll take, throughout the journey. And we really need all these pieces for growth. Another thing that is really unique about the Texas Medical Center is this amazing basic science research, translational research, and then clinical care. And so we have really unique assets that are related to biologics manufacturing, cell and gene therapy, both the science and the manufacturing, especially on the cell therapy side with CTMC here in Houston. And then some amazing antibody drug discovery work at UT Health and beyond. So this is not meant to be comprehensive, just showing a few of the key strengths that are across each of these. Baylor, MD Anderson, and Houston Methodist can all go from discovery to clinical trials within their own infrastructure. And that just really doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. So we're in a good place. for novel biologics manufacturing. Here's just a few stats. Again, not a comprehensive list of all the institutions, just a few highlights of the amount of core facilities, NIH dollars that are coming in, clinical trials that are being run. We are in a place that's really enriched for amazing activity across biologics discovery, clinical care, clinical trials. And so there's no better place to build a biotech company than here in the medical center. So then we get talking about the people, right? So some folks you may know here already, others may be new to you. These individuals are some of the leading translational scientists here on the campus, many of whom we work with directly across our TMC programs. Again, there's many more than these, just a few to highlight, especially on the drug development side. And then there's also, again, folks that have industry experience that are really able to work with scientists to translate their discovery ideas, their biology, new targets, their new therapeutics, and bring them closer to being able to be manufactured, and then again, closer to patients. So fantastic networks here. We also think about how do we work with these scientists, people like you who want to take something forward, but you may not want to be the CEO of that company, or maybe you do. Whichever the case, our team can work with you to really figure out how to take your science to the next step from a translational level. And what we've done is we've recruited many of the people here on this screen as entrepreneurs and residents directly into our team. There's also several other entrepreneurs listed here that are already doing great independent work across the campus. And so these are the types of people that, again, have really spun things out of academia before, who have done biotech before, who have done this over and over and over again and can be advisors and partners to you as you build. And so we think about talent holistically, right? Who are the inventors, who are the drug developers, and who are the people that are going to be really taking these projects forward. And for any of you that want to do that, we want to empower you to figure that out. Just like anything else, it's kind of a different language, right? There's this other language of value inflection points and fundraising and figuring out what the right experiment is that those downstream funders are going to look for. And these are the types of people that can help you figure that out. And these are the types of people that we bring together and work collaboratively with across a lot of different areas. Okay, so what? So let's measure it. So I'm just going to share two quick case studies of how we've done this successfully to date. Again, there's more than this in the pipeline, but just a quick illustration of how this works in action. So we'll take March Biosciences first. March Biosciences, co-founded by Max Munkin and Malcolm Brenner over at Baylor's Cell and Gene Therapy Group. Max Munkin figured out how to create T-cell targeting TCRs. Okay, so right now, all of the cell therapies are really going after B-cell lymphomas. And there's a problem where the T-cells are going to kill each other as you grow them up in the manufacturing. And so nobody's figured out how to prevent this from happening until Max did about 5 years ago or so. Okay, so Max he's seen Malcolm Brenner start these companies. He knows there's like some theoretical thing he can do, but he doesn't really know what to do next. This is his first time trying to do a startup. So he comes in through our CPRIT-funded Cancer Therapeutics Accelerator. He meets Sarah Hine, one of our entrepreneurs in residence. They build a strong relationship, and eventually they decide to work together and co-found a company. This company at the time already had clinical data, so Baylor had taken this all the way through and already treated patients and seen amazing results in clinics. So pretty cool early data. But in cell therapy, the big piece that makes investors wary of investing is on the manufacturing. So what they did was they formed a company and spun it out of Baylor College of Medicine. They partnered with CTMC here in the Med Center to rework their manufacturing that made it more commercializable. They needed some money to do this, so TMC, Portal, and a few others invested in this company to be able to make that happen. Sarah hired a great team of people and consultants around her to make sure that they were ready for that. They've now since redone their manufacturing and filed a new IND, and they're going to go back into clinic with Baylor College of Medicine and MD Anderson and lots of other sites, 12 other sites around the country here in 2025. Marsh Biosciences is going to shortly announce a Series A raise from both local investors and coastal investors, so Texas and beyond. And that's something that is uniquely possible because of the infrastructure that's here in the medical center, because of Baylor Cell and Gene Therapy Group, because of CTMC, because of this matching of entrepreneurial talent, and then the ability to get funding around it. CPRIT put in $13.5 million into this company. MD Anderson's Focus Fund put in $4.1 million into this company. So it's been a really great effort, both with non-dilutive funding and dilutive funding, to be able to get this product back into the clinic and show some great results. So one of the ways that that's happened to date. Okay, our next story is about Crossbridge Bio. This company is in collaboration with two awesome scientists at UT Health. So they have developed a novel antibody drug conjugate. For those of you who aren't in the space, antibody drug conjugates eventually, theoretically, will replace chemo. It'll make chemo more targeted. There are antibody drug conjugates out there in the world right now, and HER2 is a commonly known one for that, for breast cancer. But the current ADCs have some toxicity issues. And so these investigators at UT Health developed a new linker that would both enhance the strength of the binding and help the chemo get to the target better, but also enable dual payloads, so two different chemos on the same target molecule. So this, if it works, is the next generation of ADCs. ADCs is already a really hot space in the investment community, and in pharma, there's a ton of deals going on. Pfizer recently bought a company for $43 billion last year, and they're still talking to the Crossbridge team because this is, if it works, the next wave of how all of these technologies could go forward. So again, awesome work already being done at UT Health. They came through our Cancer Therapeutics Accelerator again in this case, built a relationship with Michael Torres and the founding team. He's gone out to raise just a little bit of money so far to start, again, focusing on both manufacturing and getting some of that early tox data. And so the scientific founders are still working away in the lab. They're still inventing new products, but they're also able to ride shotgun on this deal and get to keep it in Texas. Jishan An is one of the co-founders of this company and one of the key inventors here. And he already has 6 products that are in the clinic, but all of those licenses have had to leave Texas. So he's really excited about the new infrastructure and being able to stay closer to those technologies. Instead of sending them to Boston or San Francisco or San Diego, they can be built right here in Texas. So we're excited to be partnering with the UT Health team, with Michael. They have a CPRIT grant, and they're getting ready to go into humans probably 18 months from now. And their phase 1 will target MD Anderson, of course, as one of their sites. So this is just how all of the people and how all the infrastructure and how the unique assets that we have in the medical center can come together to create these really unique companies. And for any of you that are interested in taking what you're already working on in the lab and moving it forward on a drug development timeline pathway, or if you need some guidance as to what milestones are most interesting and impactful for investors, again, myself and the rest of our team are here to support you, as are your tech transfer offices. Okay, I think most of this audience is focused more on the drug development space, but TMC does do this across digital health and med device as well. So the Rice friends here might know of Motif Neurotech, which is a Rice founded spin-out company. It is a device that can basically, hopefully, have the same effect as deep brain stimulation, just with a smaller implant, so it doesn't have to be implanted so deep in the brain. And then there was also another Rice company that TMC invested in back in 2019 called Volumetric. That company was acquired in 2022. And so those founders are thinking about what they want to do next now as well, which is pretty exciting. Venustent is not based, it's not a Rice technology or any of the member institutions here, but came out of Vanderbilt. They came here to J Labs. They have a great product that helps dialysis patients with this creation of the venous access for their dialysis. And it really improves the integrity of this AV fistula that you see there. And they are in their first in human trial right now. We invested in them as well last year. So just another example of some of our investments across the spectrum. Okay, so I've mentioned that TMC ourselves, we do invest in companies. We certainly don't do it alone. CPRIT is a huge investment resource, of course, across the state, but we also partner with all of the folks that you see on this screen. I mentioned Portal Innovations. That's one of our new partners. That's just opening up a space here in Houston 2 weeks ago. We partner with payers like Sandbox, specialized med tech firms like these, biotech firms like in the middle. We are doing a couple investments with KDT, which is a local Texas fund, Rice Biotech Launchpad. So we're really trying to collaborate across all of the different resources, both the different member institutions, Baylor, MD Anderson, Rice, some of the ones listed here, corporate partners, payers across the board. Okay, so one of the other pieces I've been mentioning is that infrastructure is important for lab companies. And once you are thinking about creating a company that you're going to have investment into, you're also going to want a different space to do that research, to manage around the different intellectual property that you'll be creating with the company versus in the lab. And so TMC3 is the newest endeavor of the medical center to, again, enable that collision of people and have the specialized physical space for those that need to grow lab companies. And so here on this campus, which to orient us, we're up at the top right here, is just south of MD Anderson's clinical campus. And what are we doing here? We are building an entire campus dedicated to translational research, venture and industry partnerships, and event space. It's also a public park. There's a movie night that we're hosting tonight. I think it's Pitch Perfect tonight at 9 p.m. The parks have different events. You can come anytime. We have soccer fields. We're going to have restaurants and things like that that are open to the public. So it's really meant for the whole city of Houston. The cornerstone of this whole campus is our TMC3 collaborative building. We are co-owners of this building with the logos that you see here. Portal Innovations is one of our first key tenants. That's the one I mentioned. That's both physical space, but also a fund. They provide great resources, specialized services, introductions to CROs, CDMOs, and other pieces that one might need to develop that product and move it forward. It's a great way to move into a space where you have a lot of things that are still taken care of for you, but also a community of entrepreneurs that are also building companies together in this space. So this is a real picture. This is what it looks like. It's not a rendering. You can come visit me there anytime. Like I said, movie night tonight, and I'll preview a few other events that we're hosting towards the end of the year. This is a rendering, so this is not a real photo. But this first tower that's on the left-hand side is a real building. Here, Baylor College of Medicine, Houston Methodist, and I think our friends here at Rice are going to have space here. Again, these are translational labs. So think faculty that are doing drug discovery research, think faculty that have already spun something out of the university. They'll either have a satellite lab or move their full lab over here. The second tower doesn't exist quite yet, but will here soon next year. And there's going to be vivariums here, lots of specialized lab space. There's a nice gym here, so it's a great place to be and to work. Here's another rendering. This is what it'll look like in 7 years. Okay, so you can see the parks all the way through the middle. Those all exist today. And again, you're invited to come and share time with us there. It's called Helix Park because of the helix motif brought throughout. This building is MD Anderson's administration building, so this exists today. And the center of the campus on this side is that collaborative building that I mentioned. But eventually we're going to have about 10 buildings dedicated to lab infrastructure. Again, both for translational research, industry partners, manufacturing partners, et cetera. There's going to be residential and a hotel here on this side. Baylor's independently building their med school here. And then the campus will extend down into MD Anderson's South Campus next to UT Dental. And so this motif will be carried over. It's super green, bike friendly. It's really built with the future in mind. So that's what we can all look forward to. And for those of you that want to come be a part of building it with us, we'd love to have you. Okay, so I talked about infrastructure again for a while, but I just want to bring it back to the fact that it's always all about the people, okay? So when we think about doing work at TMC, we're thinking about how do we bring the right people together and how do we get our community to have better access to those people. I'm going to show you 3 different photos from a single public event that we hosted previously, just to illustrate what we mean by it's all about the people. So this was from a surgical innovation day. We first hosted a panel with surgical leaders from each of the different institutions across the Med Center. This is Dr. Rosengart and Dr. Spiegel from Baylor and Houston Methodist, respectively. Dr. Spiegel actually has a project that she's working on through GCC's REACH program, which if you are in the space and want to get access to funding and resources, that's another way you can do it. Dr. Rosengart has started a couple companies before, all in the med device space, and he's working on another one right now with one of my colleagues. So very innovation forward. They talked about how to innovate as surgeons or as trainees, how to bring products forward, etc. A little bit later at the same event, we had a showcase of different startups. So this is Ashwin Dhawan. He's a clinician here in Sugar Land. He also invented a product that helps make scheduling easier for the OR. He's talking to Billy Cohn, who's a prolific entrepreneur in the medtech space. He was in the news over the summer because they just implanted the first total artificial heart replacement for a patient that was waiting for a transplant here at Texas Heart Institute over the summer. So really, like, the work that's being done here at the medical center across the board is truly saving lives and making an impact. And then just one more quick little story. So here is another medtech entrepreneur. This product was iterated 16 times in about a 6-month period. They were able to test it in animals here again in Texas Heart Institute. And Joanna Nathan, who's the CEO of this company, she has 3 Rice degrees, so definitely a homegrown hero, so to speak, in this startup world. She's talking to Homer Quintana, who is really the person that helps all the clinical trials happen and all the animal studies happen at Houston Methodist related to med device. And so just getting all the people together in the room, having them get access to each other, inviting the whole community to come and hear these stories and talk to these entrepreneurs, that's what TMC is all about. So now it's my invitation to all of you to be a part of all of this. If anything that you heard today was interesting and you want to learn more about it, you can take a photo of this, or you can come email me or LinkedIn me after. I'm always happy to talk to you about it. This is all my personal contact information if you want to reach out to me. There's also so many events that are happening. So after COVID, we had a lull of not as many events, but now this fall is going to be totally nuts. Here's some of the links of websites where you can go to find out which events are happening. GCC is hosting an event October 1st that I didn't make it on here with K2 Bio, which has a startup community and vivarium and a CRO service all in one. Super cool, just down the street. We have light networking events at TMC Innovation, like cappuccinos. So there's no agenda, just come and have a coffee with us if you want to learn more. Reggie from Rice, the president of Rice, is going to have a conversation fireside chat with our CEO. These are super fun. We've done a conversation with Peter Pisters, the CEO of MD Anderson, conversation with Paul Klotman 2 weeks ago, the CEO of Baylor College of Medicine. So super excited to hear Reggie's stories in a couple weeks. Portal Innovations, I've mentioned a couple of times. Portal's really good at getting the right people in the room together. Their grand opening is going to be full of drug development researchers, entrepreneurs, key talent, the people that are really making it happen. They're going to have a big grand opening celebration evening of the 29th. For those of you who haven't been to Texas Life Science Forum here at the Business School at Rice, it's like the most important thing for the fall for sure. Great educational content, hear from entrepreneurs, investors come from across the state and around the country. It's a really great event. For those of you that are like, I don't actually care about drug development, I just want to hear some cool innovation, Envision and Fire Pitch are going to be more digital and device focused entrepreneurs. So how are we thinking about healthcare supply chain, patient access, getting all of the links from the payers and the providers together. We're working with companies right now across the board, from access to a device that helps moms give birth more easily, to NICU devices to monitor preemies. So it's really across the board. So if you're just curious about what's happening in innovation, that's another great place to go. Cool. I think the last thing that I'll leave you with, if you'll indulge me then, is just a little bit of my career journey. Again, when I was sitting here in these seats, I did not think that I was going to be investing in companies, part of this whole VC world, part of the startup world even at all. So that was not my plan or my goal. Really, my North Star was trying to work on things that were closer to patients and closer to impact that I could feel like I could see. And so that's what led me to really think about the business of science, how things get pushed forward. That curiosity led me to startups because the business school wouldn't let me take classes there. Lilly didn't exist yet for those of you that are here at Rice. There wasn't like people I could go ask and talk to, except my own peers that we were all trying to figure it out together. So through that, the startup community was the ones that were like, yeah, sure, you want to help? You want to do a project? Like, here you go. Like, help me with this market research, or help me, understand this competitive landscape. So I didn't go into that expecting to stay in the startup world, but found a community of people that are invested in trying to make the world better and really trying to move fast and make that happen. So that's when I moved over into the accelerator world, helping people get clinical trials off the ground here in the Med Center. And then I moved from that into managing the whole network, which I thought was going to be not a great move for me, but actually was really like, how do we get the right resources and unlock it for people? So if you need a regulatory consultant for cell therapy, or if you need a CMC consultant for your antibody drug conjugate, we know exactly the right person who that is for whatever your specialized circumstances. I went from that role to hiring entrepreneurs and residents. So how do we think about recruiting that talent here to Houston and also supporting the talent that we already have here and making it possible for them to be able to grow and build these companies and do that successfully. So that was super fun. And then now I'm part of the team that does the diligence and deal flow and portfolio support for our fund. So we have a relatively small fund. It's only $50 million, which in the venture world is not that much, but we're trying to make investments into companies that are doing important work here across the campus, and so that we can help them take that next step out of the lab and then make them Series A fundable, which we're just super excited that Sarah is going to be, and March Bioscience is going to be the first company that's gone through that whole phase successfully here as part of these programs. Great. I did not check the Zoom to see if we had any questions along the way, but might be okay. So with that, I guess I'll just pause for questions and see what you all have any thoughts, insights. You want to push me on something I said? You were like, hey, you totally forgot about this other cool story that you haven't said yet. Anything, we can talk about anything. Yeah, Martha.
Venture
Yeah.
capital on there. Do you all have events or ways that we would get connected with, I mean, everything that there's to offer with it?
Yeah, for sure. So it can be case by case basis. So if a company already exists and they say, hey, I want to raise money from TMC or from these partners, then we can do that on a case by case basis. So for example, there's a medical device company that already exists that we've known for a long time. And they're like, hey, we just got this amazing first in human data. I really want to talk to funds that do X, Y, Z. And I just sent her a list of all the investors that I can personally introduce her to. And also we're going to go through the process with our fund as well. So sometimes it's one by one. We also host these accelerator programs. So for our CPRIT funded Cancer Therapeutics Accelerator, we have 23 projects that range from academic projects that are like, I have something cool, should I start a company? To like companies that are like, okay, I just incorporated, I'm going to apply for CPRIT, I'm going to apply for SBIR, but I'm just getting started, to companies that already exist and might already have, $5 or $7 million in the bank, but are still, working on getting clinical trial sites ready or looking for additional fundraising. And so for that program, we actually have a big investor day next week. So folks are coming in from around the country for an investor day next Thursday. So we also have these kind of curated investor days that happen probably 4 times a year and are curated for different audiences. So for this time, it'll be seed stage therapeutics companies. But in May, we did one for digital health and med device. So yes, both and yeah. Waiting for your mic.
Thank you. That was a great talk. Do y'all ever deal with competing ideas or competing projects? I think because that's also the thing, right? Because it's a such a big research environment that a lot of people, sometimes people are working on similar things. And so if you're helping one group commercialize their research, does it become a conflict of interest if another group approaches you from a different institution or even the same institution? So how do you deal with that? And I'm sure you want to help as many people as possible, but at some point, wouldn't there also be a conflict of interest there?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So the main way that we also work with individual researchers and inventors is one of our first questions is, hey, have you already disclosed this and talked to your tech transfer office about it? If you haven't yet, then we'll make sure to keep the conversation super high level, not talking about anything really technical or anything really about the product. There's still so much we can talk about at that high level though, like the overall market landscape for this, for ADCs or for a particular indication in oncology, or other things like, hey, have you thought about SBIRs yet? Do you know about the NIH Blueprint grant if you're in neuro, right? Like we can still try and point you to resources like that. But we, in our official programs, only work with companies that have disclosed to their tech transfer offices already. They don't have to have filed a patent, but they need to be disclosed. And also that the tech transfer offices are aware that we're working with them. So in terms of like managing around IP and sort of conflicts there, we're trying to work collaboratively both with the inventor as well as the tech transfer offices to make sure that everybody knows what's going on, everybody knows that what we're talking about, that everything's super clear. When we talk about like potentially competitive projects, after we're kind of past the IP stage, and we're not worried about it on that landscape, I guess it hasn't really come up on the drug development side. We have on the kind of more device side worked with pretty similar projects or products. Again, these are already companies that exist and have differentiated IP and teams and everything like that. In these cases, we'll still work with both because we still want to provide the resources. You'll still need manufacturing partners. You'll still need regulatory advisors. So if either team doesn't have any of those things, then we'll want to make sure that they have access to that. It really hasn't just come up yet where there's like a directly competing product and we've had to pick one, especially if we only think about limiting the geography to the med center. So yeah, not that it won't come up, but because we try and operate after the IP has been generated, it keeps us at a different stage. And then in startup world and biotech world, things fail a lot more often because of the team than because of the technology. Of course, science doesn't work all the time, and we don't know what it's going to look like in monkeys or in humans as we get that data, right? So things can fail for science reasons for sure. But in this line of work, it's usually because it's not the right team that's put together. And so that's probably the biggest thing that we navigate with the inventors, trying to help them make sure that they're partnering with the right person or empowered to do it themselves and have all of the information about what's market, like what makes sense, what, are you getting a bad deal here from this CEO partner or from an investment partner that's going to make it harder down the road, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so I have like a more investment strategy question. So as you probably noticed, we're entering into a interest rate cutting cycle.
Yeah.
Does that materially affect your investment strategy? And then two, do you think that would help you or help the Texas Medical Center get more investment or steal some away from like Southern California or Boston or something like that?
Okay, those are like two different questions in my mind, so I'll answer them
yeah.
separately. So yes, absolutely. The change in the interest rates is a huge factor in the kind of macro market that we're in. So if we think back to 2021, we had really low interest rates. We had huge excitement of VC investing. We had huge valuations of the startup companies. We also, if you think about it like on a super macro level, people weren't making any money in bonds or in T-bills or in any of these other vehicles. And so they were happy to put them in these high risk vehicles like venture. Now that people can make so much money just on the interest alone through a variety of different vehicles, they're a lot more stringent on the money that they're putting in the risk capital because it's such a sure thing over here, which has meant that there's not as much venture dollars available. It's extremely hard for venture funds to raise another fund. And so there's not as much capital that they have available. And the funds that are already raised are saving that money for their existing portfolios more than they're investing in new companies. So all of those factors have really impacted the whole landscape for people trying to start a company. That being said, if anyone of you are entrepreneurs, it's a great time to start a company because if you just need a little capital now, this is all going to change again as the rates come down. Then there's going to be more people looking to invest in risk capital as we come out of that. So you can go generate your data. And then by the time you're ready, there's going to be a lot more capital back in venture. Other big picture factors are IPO windows have been really pushed. So people haven't been getting their money back in the venture firms. And so they haven't been able to raise new capital or deploy into other capital. For us at TMC, it's our own balance sheet capital. We don't have any LPs. And so we're not as impacted by these macro forces just for our fund alone specifically. And these pieces like the big wins that we're hoping to get from our portfolio, like the March Biosciences one I was mentioning, are going to be so much more impactful for us to be able to go attract more money either from our own board or from other partners in the future. So funds and startups have to perform no matter what. But in this landscape today in 2024, even the ones that are performing aren't exiting. So that flow of capital has been really slow. And so it hasn't been happening as much. What was your second question? I already forgot. Oh yeah, from all the other coasts. Yeah, so, okay, look, the architect that did Helix Park, we stole from Boston, okay? So like, we're not like trying to say that we don't admire what's already happened there. What we're trying to do here is make that happen faster, okay? So we're gonna import the talent, we're gonna import the architect, we're gonna import the parks designer, we're going to take all those lessons learned and we're gonna try and make that same transition that happened in Kennel Square over a 30-year period happen in a 10 to 15-year period. So that's the goal. That's explicitly what we're trying to do. COVID helped a lot with markets outside of the coast because investors and others are much more willing to invest in founders that they've primarily met on Zoom and also entrepreneurs can build teams that are virtual because we're all more used to that now. So COVID was the biggest boon for us to be able to continue to build a great ecosystem here because of just the nature of virtual work. Yeah. And virtual deal making specifically. But we have a long way to go. So we're still building one step at a time. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I'm wondering about the breakdown of the expertise in your portfolio, as you kind of mentioned that those teams are very important in that expertise. Is this like a majority oncology, or is this like a nice breakdown of like 10% oncology, 9% rheumatology, 8% infectious diseases? Like, what's the breakdown of practice specialty expertise that your trialists or designers, inventors might have?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've made 24 investments. On the therapeutics alone, we've only made 2 investments so far. Those 2 have both been in oncology with applications in kind of like autoimmune for one of them more than the other. Oncology is great because of MD Anderson, Baylor, Houston Methodist, but also because of CPRIT. And so it's we've been starting in oncology. We'll probably expand to cardiometabolic and others, neuro from here, but we haven't yet. We're just getting started in therapeutics. In the therapeutics world, there's also modality differences, right? So small molecules and what you need and the talent you need for that versus antibodies and what you need for that versus cell therapy and what you need for that are super different. And so we do have network capabilities across all 3, small molecule antibodies, plus bispecifics and ADCs and everything else, and cell therapy. And so if it's an antibody or cell therapy, we can still provide great access to CMC, regulatory, and other pieces. Across the portfolio, though, we have quite a few cardiovascular devices. That's a huge strength here, this legacy of the artificial heart that was developed here at Rice and at Baylor. And that still continues with Billy Cohn. So we have a ton of that, lots of great biomaterials and drug delivery stuff here at Rice. We've got one neuro that I mentioned already, rheumatoid arthritis, neurostimulation, neuromodulation device company as well. And then on the digital health side, it's a lot more like back office hospital operations. So Medical Informatics is a local Houston company that's kick-ass. They're awesome. They take all of the data from all the devices in the ICU and pull them all together and create a virtual nurse ICU dashboard. And their platform is called SickBay. So a lot of that kind of stuff, the patient may not see it, but it's really integral to hospital operations. So we do that, decentralized clinical trials, patient recruitment for clinical trials, patient engagement, like texting your patients to make sure they show up to the doctor, supply chain management. So we do a lot of that on the hospital software side as well. So yeah, heavy cancer, heavy cardiovascular, neuro emerging, and then sprinkling in of the others. So that's what it looks like today.
Hey, thanks for the talk. I have 2 quick questions. One probably a silly question is like, before we go into a pitch event or maybe the Texas Life Science Forum, this kind of like thing, is it necessary to be a company already, or it just need to be an intention to form a company?
So for Texas Life Science Forum, anyone can attend as like a conference attendee, and you can listen to the panels, and the leadership from CPRIT are going to be there, right? Like people that do startups. So you can always attend as an attendee. I think you do have to have an incorporated company participate in the life science pitch event, and they do have an application process. You do have to submit a pitch deck and a bit of information about the company in order to present on stage at the forum, and also to be eligible to be matched with their investor speed networking, which is a private event that they host the day before that forum. So probably you'd have to have a company already. For our Cancer Therapeutics Accelerator and for the GCC REACH program, those you can be projects still. And again, in either case, you have to have been collaborating with your tech transfer office, and they have to be fully aware that you're going to be doing this program in GCC REACH or our accelerator, but you don't have to have formed a company, or you don't even have to have decided that you will form a company. You could be doing either of those programs to figure out if you should spend the time and effort and energy doing that.
My second question is about if there is a platform technology has some potentials in different perspectives. So what kind of strategy or what kind of help you can offer to help out this group of people to narrow down their directions?
Yeah, platform technologies are definitely can be really exciting. There's also certain subsets of investors that prefer to invest in platform technologies. So if people tell you that that's not investable, then they're just talking to the wrong investors. So just a little piece about that. People like us and our team can help you think through which indications might be more of interest. For example, if it's something that can be for both glioblastoma and ovarian cancer, there's a lot of people that will push you towards ovarian cancer because glioblastoma is so challenging to get through the trials. There's so many more products that are trying to get into trials and patients that are eligible for them. So there's things that market information that people like our entrepreneurs and residents and others that are in the network can provide to you to help narrow down or to provide you some homework to go, help you narrow that down for yourself too. So it's a collaborative process.
Okay, thank you much.
I guess I had a quick question, like what experiences throughout your journey really help you gain the knowledge and the confidence in your business acumen? I don't think many of us in here would ever fathom investing $50 million. So
Yeah.
kind of how did you develop that?
Yeah, I definitely didn't either fathom that I would be doing this. So there's lots of pathways to get into venture. Sometimes it's starting a company. Sometimes it's doing this accelerator route, which is not the most common way, but it does happen. Sometimes it's going from an analyst and doing more of the finances or company scouting on the therapeutic side and then working your way up. So for those of you who are explicitly already interested in that, we can talk about specific routes that make sense. I think for me, the way that I've been able to get where I am right now is that I stopped viewing my career as a ladder. And so when I finished my PhD and I was thinking about, should I do this startup company that's just me and a surgeon trying to figure stuff out or not? Like, that sounds crazy. I just invested 5+ years of my life in cancer vaccine drug delivery. And should I go do abdominal surgery, like device right after grad school? Not to mention all the research in undergrad I did. Like, am I just going to leave that all behind and do this other thing that is an early stage startup and is kind of crazy? Like, why would I do that? And it was hard. I wasn't sure that I was able to like let all of my time and effort and energy that I already put into that go. But what I decided was that I would learn more from doing this crazy early stage startup thing than I would kind of doing other options, I guess, that I had at the time. And so doing that then put me into a different career platform, as I now call it. So I went from my PhD life to this other life that was kind of sideways, but different than what I had been doing before. And then all of a sudden, like my aperture, I could see all these other things that I could do from here. And so now I think about anytime I'm planning about what I want to do in my career, is that next thing gonna expose me to a great opportunity to learn and also a new way of viewing the world and a new potential path of careers. And that's kind of what I'm tending to gravitate to more than before. And of course, it did all come back around in the end, right? Like, I was not doing anything in therapeutics for a while, and then I was hiring entrepreneurs and residents for this cancer accelerator that was focused on helping people get their stuff out of the lab and into a company for those that had, good data to do that. And in oncology, and I thought I had like left it all behind, and it came back around. So yeah, I think that's kind of what's been my guiding principle. And then on the learning, it's just there's also this thing with myself and other PhDs where it's like, okay, we're PhDs, like we can do anything, we know what we're doing, and we really know our one space pretty well. But then I went from that to like having to help people figure out the stroke workflow in a hospital, and I had no idea what that was, right? So like I had to like be humble and also realize that I was in a room with, 5 other people that were at it acting like a mock board for a company that was doing a stroke intervention. And they were like, well, what about this? And how is the ambulance going to get there? And then how are they going to get to the mechanical thrombectomy? And how does the money work in the hospital setting? And who's going to pay for this? And the hospitals are not paid for by the same people that are doing the mechanical thrombectomy, right? So if you're going to deliver an intervention in the ambulance, then you can't access this pot of money that's for the final intervention. Anyway, so like all of this stuff was like, oh, I'm just learning a whole new world and just trying to listen as much as I can, and then kept doing that over and over again through different things. Before March of this year, I didn't really know like how to run an outcomes analysis for an investment, and now I have been doing that over and over again, so I'm more comfortable there. So you just don't know until you do stuff, and you have to give yourself the chance to do something and figure it out. Because I was like super paralyzed by, am I doing the right next thing? And as soon as I let that go, I was able to just learn a lot more. It was good for me. Cool. Any questions on the Zoom or no? I think we're at 5 o'clock then. So any other questions? Again, I'll be here for a while, so let me know if you need anything. Cool. All right.